The most important crypto bill in a decade just cleared committee. So, why are the people closest to it preparing for it to fail? On paper, it looks like pure momentum. A 15-9 Senate banking vote, White House backing, a July target date. But underneath that headline, three forces are squeezing this bill at the same time. And the people who actually count the votes in Washington are getting nervous. I'm Lewis, and today we're cutting through the political theater to look at the real odds. Here's the gap nobody's talking about. A bill could look like a winner in the press release and still be dead on arrival in the chamber. That's exactly what's happening here, and by the end of this video, you'll know the precise signals that decide whether 2026 is the year crypto got its rules. Let's start with the win that wasn't. On May 14th, the Senate Banking Committee advanced the Digital Asset Market Clarity Act, 15 votes to 9. And what this bill actually does is enormous. For a decade, the SEC and the CFTC have fought a turf war over who controls which crypto asset. That fight created what insiders call regulation by enforcement. No clear rules, just lawsuits. Clarity ends that. It draws a statutory line, handing the CFTC primary control over spot digital commodity markets, while the SEC keeps digital securities. It sorts every asset into three buckets: a digital commodity like Bitcoin, an investment contract asset regulated by the SEC, or a payment stablecoin tied to the existing Genius Act framework. This is the regulatory clarity the industry has begged for since 2015. So when it cleared committee, you'd think it was halfway home. But here's the turn. Committee passage is the easy part. As of late May, this bill has no scheduled floor date. None. And the path from committee to law is exactly where bills go to die. Don't just take my word for it. Take Ruben Gallegos. He's one of the Democrats who voted yes, and even he said, and I'm quoting directly, "My vote here does not guarantee a vote on the floor." He added that if it's not resolved by floor time, he is not afraid to vote no. When your own supporters are hedging on day one, that's not momentum. That's a warning. And to understand why he's hedging, you need to see the math. So let's do the arithmetic because, well, it's brutal. There are 53 Republican seats in the Senate. To break filibuster and actually vote on this bill, you need 60. That's a 7-vote gap that has to be filled by Democrats. Right now, how many Democrats are committed? Just 2. Gallego, who we just heard hedging, and Angela Alsobrooks of Maryland. And Alsobrooks has also said her committee vote is not a guarantee of support on the floor. So really, the 2 committee votes aren't even fully committed. They need at least 5 more Democrats, and there's no obvious place to find them. Now, the optimists will tell you this passed the House back in July 2025 with 294 votes. Huge bipartisan margin. But here's what they leave out. The House is not the Senate. The Senate needs 60 to overcome a filibuster, and bipartisan in committee does not translate to bipartisan on the floor. In committee, 13 Republicans carried it. Only 2 Democrats crossed over. The other 9 Democrats, including Elizabeth Warren, of course, voted no. And the calendar makes every one of those missing votes harder to find. This is an election year. A yes vote can be framed 2 ways, both toxic for a Democrat in 2026. 1, you handed a gift to the crypto industry. 2, and this is the dangerous one, you helped the Trump family's personal financial interests. And the financial incentive to take that risk? Well, almost non-existent. Crypto-aligned PACs spent over $271 million in this cycle. Only 3% of that went to Democrats. So, if you're a Democrat senator, you're being asked to absorb all the political risk for none of the campaign cash. There's a reason analysts at Stifel and TD Cowen are warning the committee vote signals nothing about the floor. But the vote math, as ugly as it is, isn't even the biggest problem. Because there's a landmine sitting in the middle of the negotiating table. And it has nothing to do with crypto policy. It's actually about Trump. Here's the deadlock. Senators Elizabeth Warren and Kristen Gillibrand are demanding conflict of interest guardrails. rules that would bar the president, the vice president, and members of Congress from holding personal financial stakes in crypto business while in office. And the target is not subtle. It's World Liberty Financial, the crypto venture co-founded by Donald Trump and his sons. The exposure here is genuinely staggering. 49% stake in that venture was sold to a UAE-linked entity for $500 million right before the 2025 inauguration. The family is also connected to meme coins, a Bitcoin mining company, and a stablecoin called USD1. And here's the detail that should make you laugh and wince at the same time. Donald Trump Jr. has advisory roles with Kalshi and Polymarket, the exact prediction markets people are using to bet on whether this bill passes. Gillibrand's line on the ethics provision is about as blunt as it gets. She said, and I quote, "There will be no one voting for this bill if we don't have an ethics provision." Warren went even further, calling the bill something that would turbocharge Donald Trump's crypto corruption. So that's one side. Now, here's why nobody can move. The White House has flatly refused. Their advisor, Patrick Witt, said any ethics rules have to apply, quote, across the board, from the president all the way down to the brand new intern. Translation, we will not accept anything that singles out Trump. And Senator Cynthia Lummis warned that if the bill is used as a cudgel against the president, he'll simply veto it. See the trap? If Democrats accept broad, watered-down language, they lose the entire point of the demand, which was to only hold Trump accountable. If Republicans accept targeted language, Trump kills the bill that they've spent years building. Neither side can move without losing face, so negotiations freeze. And remember what the Digital Chamber's CEO said? Ethics has to be resolved before leadership will even schedule a floor vote. Now, it does seem like a solution would be to have solid language that holds everyone accountable and stops them from insider trading, but this is politics. And this political landmine is acting as the main gate blocking every other path forward. And while that gate stays shut, a second army is marching on the bill from the outside, the banks. Because if you want to see real lobbying muscle, watch what happened after May 14th. The American Bankers Association launched an emergency campaign. Their CEO sent a letter to bank CEOs across the entire country, demanding immediate engagement. The result? Bank CEOs across the country responded, flooding Senate offices with letters opposing the bill. They backed it with a reported 2.5 million media blitz, branding the bill's stablecoin yield provisions as, and I love this phrase, unregulated deposit theft. And then Jamie Dimon stepped into the ring. The JP Morgan CEO went on Fox Business and did not hold back. On the bill, he said, quote, banks will not accept it that way. On the fight, he vowed to oppose it, quote, until the bitter end. And on Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong, who's leading the industry push, Dimon said he was, and I'm cleaning this up for YouTube, full of it. Armstrong's response? He posted a hockey rivalry meme. That's the level of seriousness that we're operating at here. But strip away the personalities and what are the banks actually fighting? Well, two things. First are the yield provisions. Even after a compromise brokered by Senators Tillis and Alsobrooks, banks say crypto platforms can still offer rewards that function like interest on a deposit, without any of the rules banks have to follow. Dimon's term for this is fake bank deposits. The ABA's fear is deposit flight, money rushing out of banks and into crypto, shrinking lending to consumers, small businesses, and farmers by a fifth or more. Second, the market structure rules that hand the CFTC that expanded jurisdiction. Now, though, here's the part that exposes the hypocrisy. While Dimon fights yield-bearing crypto products, JP Morgan is actually building its own tokenized deposit platform called Connexus. It already moves more than $1 trillion in annual transfers. So, the bank screaming loudest about crypto deposits is busy constructing crypto rails of its own. They don't want to stop the game. They just want to be the only ones allowed to play it. And the White House's own economists undercut the panic. The ABA claims this could trigger over $1 trillion in deposit losses, reducing community bank lending by as much as $850 billion. But the Council of Economic Advisors estimated a full yield ban would add just $2.1 billion to bank lending. That's 0.02% of the entire loan market. In other words, the catastrophe the banks are describing rounds to a rounding error. But here's the thing about the banking war. It might not even matter. The ultimate threat to this bill is simply the clock. Let me show you the calendar squeeze. The Senate is in session from June 1st through June 26th. After that, a state work period. Then the long recess dead zone, which leaves roughly 4 usable weeks in June. 4 weeks to merge this bill with the Senate Agricultural Committee's separate version, resolve the ethics deadlock, flip 5 Democrats, and survive a banking blitz? The White House wants a July 4th signing. Analysts call that highly ambitious, which is Washington speak for not happening. And one person controls whether any of this gets a shot: Senate Majority Leader John Thune. He controls the floor schedule, and the bill cannot move without his sign-off. As of late May, he hasn't scheduled a thing. Now, here's the stakes, and this is the part undecided senators need to hear. If this window closes, it doesn't reopen next year. Senator Lummis spelled it out. If the bill fails, she said, we wait until 2030. Why 2030 and not 2027? Because the 2026 midterms could flip the House majority. The crypto-friendly balance that produced that 294-vote House win in early 2025 could vanish entirely. And then the whole effort restarts from scratch in a far less friendly Congress. A no vote in June risks a 4-year delay, leaving America to follow the rest of the world's digital asset rules. Time, not opposition, may be what actually kills this. Now, before I give you the verdict on the exact signals to watch, quick thing. If you want this kind of breakdown, the political math behind the headlines, before it hits the mainstream, then sign up for our crypto newsletter. The link's in the description, it's free, and it's where we track these moving pieces in real time. Okay, so let's land this. Here's the honest read. If the bill dies, the current regulatory environment simply continues. Regulation by enforcement simply continues. The SEC and CFTC stay locked in their turf war. The jurisdiction question stays unresolved by statute, which means that the next administration can reset everything with a regulatory memo. Builders keep one eye offshore, where a growing share of crypto developers are already relocating. Galaxy Research projects that offshore markets will account for 60 to 70% of stablecoin development under the current Genius Act framework, a dynamic that proponents argue stronger market structure rules could help reverse. And the banks? Well, they hold their structural advantage on yield through the Genius Act, which is already law. Crypto doesn't break if this fails. It just stays in that gray zone it's lived for years. Now, the realistic path forward. There are 2 live tracks. Track 1. Thune finds floor time in June, and proponents flip the votes by splitting the ethics fight into a separate bill, freeing the market structure piece to move on its own. Track 2. That it slips to fall, loses momentum in the midterm chaos, and dies for this Congress. The compromise that could still survive is a narrower bill. Strip out the contested yield provisions. Keep just the CFTC-SEC jurisdiction taxonomy. Less for the industry to love, but far less for the banks to fight. So here are the exact signals to watch over the next few weeks. 1. Whether Thune schedules floor time before recess. This is the single clearest tell. No date by late June means that it's likely cooked for 2026. 2. Any movement on an ethics carve-out. If Warren and Gillibrand signal a compromise structure, the vote math opens up fast. 3. Whether any uncommitted Democrat goes public beyond the current 2. Watch names like Mark Warner, Cory Booker, and Andy Kim. 4. The prediction market drift. As of late May, Polymarket sits at around 60%, down from nearly 80% earlier this year. Kalshi is closer to 50% and crashed from 75% in a single week. That gap tells its own story. The retail crowd on Polymarket is far more hopeful than the institutional traders on Kalshi, who are pricing this tight calendar far more aggressively. When the smart money is more pessimistic than the crowd, well, pay attention. So, cut through the noise. This bill isn't dead, but it is no longer favored. The committee win was real, the banking war is loud, the ethics fight is frozen, and the clock is the thing that's actually running out. The next 3 weeks decide whether 2026 is the year crypto finally got its rules, or the year that it ran out of time. If Thune posts a date, the whole picture changes overnight. If he doesn't, start thinking about 2030. I'll be tracking every one of those 4 signals, and I'll break it down the moment any of them moves. Drop a comment with where you think the odds really sit, and I'll see you in the next one. This is Lewis, over and out.